So what's the opening line going to be for this one? Hey there.
Throners.
Is that it? Throners?
Apparently it's thronies or throners.
Please, you have to say thronies.
I've only just noticed your headwear.
What?
What?
This hat he's wearing.
I thought you still had your hood up, road man. I thought you still had your hood up.
His hair's wet.
We didn't say that.
Hey there, thronies. So we are embarking on House of Dragon for the first time.
Sponsored by Doritos.
Wrong. He is going for Dragons Season 1 first time. Me and you have already seen it.
I was going to get to that.
Oh.
We've both seen it. Rich has never seen it. So we're just going to watch episode 1 and see how we get on.
Dragons.
Sweet.
In those days, House Targaryen stood at the height of its strength. No power in the world could stand against it. The old king called a great council to choose an heir, but only 2 were truly considered. Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, the king's eldest descendant, and her younger cousin, Prince Viserys Targaryen, a woman, would not inherit the Iron Throne. The lords instead chose Viserys. Jaehaerys called the Great Council to prevent a war being fought over his succession. The only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself.
Isn't this the city that Daenerys burns?
Yeah.
172 years later. That's kind of why they're doing the flyover. But you still can't beat Game of Thrones dragons. They still look the best.
Oh yeah.
They look the best.
Welcome back, Princess. I trust your ride was pleasant.
Try not to look too relieved, sir.
I am relieved. Every time that golden beast brings you back unspoiled, saves my head from a spike.
Did more money get put into this
What,
than Game of Thrones? Like Game of Thrones last season?
I
do you
don't know
think?
if more money was put in. Probably a bit less, I would have thought. Purely because...
it's a gamble, isn't it?
It's a gamble because it's an offshoot.
Did you sleep?
I slept.
How long?
I don't need mothering, Rhaenyra. You will lie in this bed soon, and this discomfort is how we serve the realm.
I'd rather serve as a knight and ride to battle in glory.
The childbed is our battlefield.
My lords, the growing alliance among the free cities has taken to styling itself the Triarchy, and are presently ridding the stepstones of its pirate infestation.
Well, that sounds suspiciously like good news, Lord Corley. You're late. King's cupbearer must not be late. Leaves people wanting for cups.
I was visiting Mother.
Has invested significant capital in the retraining and re-equipping of his city watch.
Do you think Daemon is distracted by his present tasks, and that his thoughts and energies are occupied?
Well, one would hope so, considering the associated costs.
If those shipping lanes should fall, it will beggar our ports.
The Crown has heard your report, Lord Corlys, and takes it under advisement. Shall we discuss the Heirs tournament, Your Grace?
Before the games are over, my son will be born, and the whole realm will celebrate.
There's a boy in the Queen's belly.
I know it.
We passed through the Red Keep's gates at first light.
Does my father know he's here?
No.
Good.
I brought you something.
It's Valyrian steel.
You and I both own a small piece of our ancestry.
When Princess Nymeria arrived in Dawn, who did she take to husband?
A man.
What was his name?
Lord something.
You're always like this when you're worried. If you're worried, your father is about to overshadow you with a son.
I want to fly with you on Dragonback, see the great wonders across the narrow sea, and eat only cake.
What are you doing?
Do you remember?
Is it healing?
It has grown slightly, Your Grace.
It's a small cut from sitting a throne.
Might I suggest cauterization?
Cauterization would be a wise course of treatment, Your Grace.
Burning it. There's never a show, is there, where a king is healthy. Every time you go, a king's always like ill, dying, alcoholic, whatever.
Yeah, and then you see a pussy wounded God, it makes me want to gag.
Don't they know dragons prefer heat?
After this miserable pregnancy, I wouldn't be surprised if I hatched an actual dragon. Has there been any word from your dear brother?
Not since I named him commander of the City Watch.
Nothing will cause the babe to grow a cock if it does not already possess one.
This child is a boy, Emma.
Yeah.
I've never been more certain of anything.
Classic.
I've lost one babe in the cradle, had 2 stillbirths and 2 pregnancies ended well before their term. I know it is my duty to provide you an heir. And I'm sorry if I have failed you in that I am.
When I took command of the Watch, you were stray mongrels. Now, you're a pack of hounds. Beginning tonight, King's Landing will learn to fear the color gold.
I'm guessing they've got actual no evidence of this stuff.
Who knows?
They're just...
The prince cannot be allowed to act with this kind of unchecked impunity.
Brother?
Damon.
You are to explain your doings with the City Watch.
Your new gold cloaks made quite the impression last night, didn't they?
Did they?
Making a public spectacle of wanton brutality is hardly in line with our laws.
Our city should be safe for all its people.
I agree. I just hope you don't have to maim half of my city to achieve this.
We installed Prince Damon as commander to promote law and order.
Enforce my laws, but understand, any further performances like last night's will be answered. King's Landing has been in decline since my grandmother passed. In the end, this new City Watch might be a good thing.
What troubles you, my prince?
I know many of you have traveled long leagues to be at these games. But I promise you will not be disappointed. Queen Emma has begun her labors.
My wife is in great pain.
Yeah, it's like... Oh, wow. Stag.
What do you know about the Sir Kristen Cole, Sir?
I'm told Sir Kristen is common-born son of Lord Dondarrion's steward.
That actor was from another show and I can't think what it is. There's a bad guy. And actually,
You talking about the guy that was just talking?
yeah,
Well, you want to know where he's from?
it's from another show. Where plays a bad guy, like a rich bad guy with a black wife. That's a very cool armour set.
I bet he farms many a raid for that.
I thought this was going to be more Targaryen centric, so I like the fact they're bringing in the other houses.
Yeah.
Prince Damon Targaryen chooses Sir Gawain Hightower of Old Town, eldest son of the Hand of the King.
So he's picked, as in Hightower, the guy who's the Hand of the King who was arguing with Damon. Damon's picked his son for his first challenge.
Oh, right. Oh, yes, sorry, yeah, of course, yeah.
He's playing into his antagonistic nature very well.
Horses riding's a beast. I bet it goes for like the head or something. Oh, got him. Oh, bastard. I mean, that's instant disqualification, surely. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Nicely done, Uncle.
Thank you, Princess. Now, I'm fairly certain I can win these games, Lady Alicent. Having your favour.
So he's allowed to do that?
He's the prince. Who's going to tell him no?
Oh, and that's his daughter.
Yeah. And that's, the Hand of the King's daughter.
Oh, God.
Good luck, my prince.
I know where he's from. He's from...
The infant is in breach, Your Grace. All attempts to turn the babe have failed. Risking the child. Your queen is a strong woman. She's fighting with all her might. I'm here.
He's from The Witcher.
Oh, is that
He's a big character in The Witcher.
And the day grows ugly.
I wonder if this is how we should celebrate the birth of our future king.
Oh dear.
Oof. That mace hit.
I know.
During a difficult birth, it sometimes becomes necessary for the father to make an impossible choice. To sacrifice one, or to lose them both.
You can save the child.
We must either act now, or leave it with the gods.
I don't think the tournament's meant to. I don't think the tournament's meant to descend into chaos.
Already has.
No, but I mean, they're bored, aren't they? They want blood. So mystery champion versus Daemon Targaryen.
They're going to bring the babe out now. First incision.
Oh! Whoa. Whoa.
Just like one of the first ever grinds.
Yeah.
Yield. I was hoping to ask for the princess's favour. Princess?
Well, well, well.
Congratulations, Your Grace. You have a son. Had you and the Queen chosen a name?
I'm glad they've had a son, because I actually thought he was going to get all, you know,
Daughter.
after all that. I thought that's classic.
Yeah, so the baby only survived a few hours.
Right.
This was the bit I'd forgotten. So I was sitting there going, I don't remember the kid being in it. Now I know why.
Dracarys!
Your Grace, this is the last thing any of us wish to discuss at this dark hour, but I consider the matter urgent.
The king has an heir, my lord has.
Despite how difficult this time is, Your Grace, I feel it's important the succession be firmly in place for...
By precedent and by law.
Shall we say his name? Daemon Targaryen.
No one here can know what Daemon would do were he king, but no one can doubt his ambition.
I named Daemon Master of Laws, but you said he was a tyrant. As Master of Coin, you said he was a spendthrift that would beggar the realm. Putting Daemon in command of the City Watch was your solution.
The truth is, Daemon should be far away from this court.
Daemon is my brother. My blood. What are you saying? My brother would murder me, take my crown. Daemon has ambition, yes, but not for the throne. He lacks the patience for it.
Under such circumstances, it would not be an aberration for the king to name a successor.
Well, who else would have a claim?
The king's firstborn child.
Rhaenyra.
A girl. He is impulsive and violent. It is the duty of this council to protect the king and the realm from him. Agree.
I will not be made to choose between my brother and my daughter.
You wouldn't have to, Your Grace. There are others who would have a claim.
Such as your wife, Lord Corlys.
You announced your support for Daemon!
If we cannot agree on an heir, then how can we
My
expect a
wife and
ransom?
son are dead!
What's that guy's name again? Viserys Targaryen.
This guy.
Yeah.
That's also
no.
Hightower.
Oh, sorry, I meant
The king.
the king.
Yeah, I think it's Viserys, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Daemon's his brother.
Yeah.
How's Rhaenyra? I found myself thinking of your own mother today.
How is his grace?
Very low. Which is why I sent for you. I thought you might go to him, offer him comfort.
Hey?
I wouldn't know what
No
to say.
daughter.
Stop that.
Yeah, what the hell?
He'll be glad. You might wear one of your mother's dresses.
And may I watch? Jesus, is he trying to get a stepson?
What is it, Alicent?
I thought I might come and look in on you, Your Grace.
He's just lost his wife and he's playing City Builder before a computer was even made.
Didn't take long for him to geek out.
It's pretty cool though. Whittling away.
Fucking City Builder Tycoon or whatever. Whatever the fuck it'd be. Civ 5.
Sim City.
Civ 1.
The king is Solaire once again. Mates we drink.
Last night, Prince Damon bought out one of the pleasure houses on the Street of Silk.
The gods give just as the gods take away.
He toasted Prince Balon,
The king's son.
the heir for a day.
You cut the image of the conqueror, brother.
You will address me as your grace, or I will have my Kingsguard cut out your tongue. The heir for a day. Did you say it?
We must all mourn in our own way, your grace.
You chose to celebrate your own rise! Laughing with your whores and your leg spittles! Yet everything I've given you, you've thrown back in my face!
You've only ever tried to send me away, to the Vale, to the City Watch. And the blood of the dragon runs thick.
Then why do you cut me so deep?
I've only ever spoken the truth. I see Otto Hightower for what he is.
An unwavering and loyal hand.
A second son who stands to inherit nothing he doesn't seize for himself. You're weak, Viserys.
I have decided to name a new heir.
I'm your heir.
Not anymore. You are to return to Runestone and your lady wife at once. By order of your king.
Your grace.
So that's still a trait with Targaryen's fire protection, yeah.
Balerion was the last living creature to have seen old Valyria before the Doom. When you look at the dragons, what do you see?
I suppose I see us.
Tell me.
Everyone says Targaryens are closer to gods than to men. But they say that because of our dragons.
The idea that we control the dragons is an illusion. I have wasted the years since you were born, wanting for a son. You are the very best of your mother. That you could be a great ruling queen.
I, Corlys Velaryon, Lord of the Tides and Master of Driftmark.
This is no trivial gesture, Rhaenyra. Dragon's saddle is one thing, but the Iron Throne is the most dangerous seat in the realm.
Promise to be faithful to King Viserys and his named heir, the Princess Rhaenyra.
There's something else that I need to tell you. Our histories. They tell us that Aegon looked across the Blackwater from Dragonstone, saw a rich land ripe for the capture. It was a dream. And just as Daenerys foresaw the end of Valyria, Aegon foresaw the end of the world of men. Just to begin with a terrible winter. When this great winter comes, Rhaenyra, all of Westeros must stand against it. A king or queen, strong enough to unite the realm against the cold and the dark. Aegon called his dream the Song of Ice and Fire. Now you must promise to carry it and protect it. I, Viserys Targaryen.
I forgot how good that first episode was.
We'll start with you, Rich. First impressions.
It was alright.
It's alright. It's alright.
I was thinking about this as I was watching it. There's a lot to unpack. Do I like it more than the first episode of the original Game of Thrones? Because I have seen all of that. No.
Okay.
I thought the first episode with Ned Stark, you know, Game of Thrones. I mean, maybe it's Sean Bean's presence. I don't know. Maybe it's the array of characters.
Also, it's brand new. If you think
brand new. Yeah. And I'm right in thinking he got his head chopped off in the first episode. Is that right? Or second? Ned
Stark. That's not until like episode 10.
Was it? Okay.
That's the end of the first season. Because remember, he goes all the way down to King's Landing.
Goes to
okay,
yeah.
And...
But the first episode, I did like it a lot more. I like all the. I mean, I love the fact that when this started, it had the Game of Thrones music, so it made it familiar. Nice little touches here and there. I knew that Matt Smith was in this as a Targaryen. I mean, he obviously comes from a pedigree of stage acting, and so he's good. I mean, he's really good. He's got the height.
The scenery, doesn't he?
Yeah, he chews up the scenery. He's got the height. He's got the build. He looks like a strong character, strong Targaryen. Obviously, in this case, I thought the guy that plays the king,
Paddy Constantine.
Yeah,
the dude, the British actor from Dead Man's Shoes and other stuff. I mean, he's brilliant. He is so good. So I'm glad there's one of the main characters is such a compelling actor, and they've got the right person there. Don't know much about the daughter.
Rhaenyra's.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think she was a famous actress.
Don't really know much about her. And yeah, it's good setting. I mean, just unfortunate for me that they decided to have a cesarean during that.
Yeah,
episode. It's like one of my nightmare fuels.
I was physically, because I was.
It was just for me. I'm just like, no.
As soon as I remembered that it was happening, I was like physically cringing. So I was like, fuck, I have to watch this again.
Yeah,
I recall when it first aired, when it first came out. You're not alone in your recoil of that. I think there was a lot of controversy when it first came out, like the first airing of it. There was a lot of people like, what the hell?
Because you know the way they feel Game of Thrones. You know they like getting in. They like showing things graphically, and you're dreading what they're going to show you. But that, as I said, as we were watching it, there's no better interpretation of dragons than Game of Thrones. They've always nailed it. So that was great. And it was good to see the other houses coming into it. I guess we're going to see more of that, because I thought, especially in the first 10 minutes of the show, it was very Targaryen centric, which it has to be. But I was like, oh, maybe they're not actually going to go outside of this little world of the Targaryens. But that's great. It's exactly as I thought they'd be, which is how they're still portrayed 172 years later.
Yep.
And yeah, I suppose for me, I just love the costume design. What Daemon Targaryen was wearing.
The
armor sets, the two different sort of. I mean, he looks like a badass. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's good opener.
I like it because it's obviously an origin story of some kind.
Yeah.
It's not, because it's they've not talked about the start of the Targaryens, because they say at the beginning this is the second prince.
Yeah, so
he's 8 years in. But
you start with like you say, the bit at the very, very beginning. They basically start with kind of the end of the reign of the father, Targaryen, and the 60 years of peace. So you're right.
It's about the armor thing, where the gold cloaks, which you see in the first season of Game of Thrones, and now you understand the origin. And they're not too dissimilar, because in Game of Thrones they are like that under Jaime Lannister. And I think that's really cool. Like this is visually, to me, a lot more appealing than Game of Thrones. But because I think I've got a bit of a with Game of Thrones about the way it ended, and I think that for me is a tainted show. But what the things that I loved was you had the gold cloaks, but also when you first see them flying in on Dragonback over King's Landing, and you get that throwback because you see that in the final season. With when Daenerys is doing her thing.
Well, you mentioned it during, didn't you? Where it's like, is that King's Landing? Because it's very
reminiscent of...
But also because they're very clear to say it's 174 years before Daenerys, and they even the text. And then you have that, and you're like, oh wow! So King's Landing really does come a long way in 174 years under the Targaryens. Did I like it more than the first episode of Game of Thrones? I actually did, because in this I've already got some understanding from a prequel future point of view. So it's like, I don't know enough, but all of the Easter eggs that are in this one episode, I've got a whole page of them, are just like, oh yeah, and that for me was a more engaging thing as a fan of both book and TV show, to go, oh yeah, this is happening.
It's a valid point. You've got to remember, though, that the first episode of Game of Thrones didn't have anything to leech off to show.
Only an entire book series.
But that's, you're being sarcastic. That's more about like, he didn't have anything to go, we've already shown you 7 seasons, so why don't we give an Easter egg? You know, with this, I knew there were going to be bits like that where they were going to show you bits, or, you know, get the fan service in, but
almost silly of them not to.
Yeah, of course. But the first episode of Game of Thrones, I just liked it because it you know, I felt like they set the world really well, and I'm pretty sure Ned. It starts off with the chopping of the head. That's the thing I'm thinking of. It starts with
him
chopping
chopping
the
off somebody
head.
else. Yeah.
And just Sean Bean and Ned Stark's character setting the tone of the world. Like, this is making them, you know, talking to his kids, and I liked it anyways. So, what was the thing about the knife at the end? I know that's a thing. I just can't remember what it is.
I mean, he does loads of really cool throwbacks at the end. So, firstly, he talks about a song,
I love
Song
that.
of Ice and Fire.
I loved when he said that,
which is the, you know, as you know, is the
I loved
the
when
name
he
of the
said
book
that.
series. He talks about that winter is coming, but they just don't. Whereas that's from the Targaryen. You know, obviously the Stark say winter is coming. So he calls that there will be a great horde from the north to destroy the world of men. You know, but he holds the handle of a dagger, and I almost want to look at it and go, is that the same dagger?
It's the same dagger that is used to kill the Night King in the final season.
Right.
A reveal, because obviously the whole thing about the Night King, the stuff that goes on in Game of Thrones, where you get to the end, it's something that kind of comes together and comes out of a realization, which is done at the start of the first season, where you see the first White Walkers and things, and they're like, oh wow, there's this thing that's going to happen. I like here, though, when you go back 172, 174 years in the past, that actually the Targaryens were aware of the threat, and they were handing down from person to person. So
the prophecy,
it now brings you to, oh, hold on a sec, because we don't know yet. What happens between them knowing what's going to happen and Game of Thrones, where they actually have no idea what's coming at that point? So somewhere in that 172 years, between it going from the Targaryen reign to the Baratheon reign, that knowledge
gets lost.
Gets lost somehow. So that's going to be part of the interesting element. Well, we know it does, because in Game of Thrones they had no idea.
That's
what I'm saying. The knowledge of the current reign in Game of Thrones have no idea about the White Walkers.
It's like does the knowledge get lost with the Mad King that gets killed by Jaime?
But what I'm saying is we don't. That's what I'm getting at.
We're going to
we
find
don't
out.
yet know what happens.
Yeah, but we know the fact that it does.
But we know that the knowledge was there now.
Yeah, but I just thought that was a great little bit of, you know, almost foretelling of what's.
Of course it is. Yeah, of course.
But they're doing it retrospectively, so it's not so much foretelling. It's just kind of going, oh well, for the story's sake, that's what I did. Yeah. The
one thing I will say in terms of foreshadowing thing, and not that I've read any of the books, so don't take this as gospel, but obviously this series is also based on books. It's not just something they've fully made up themselves.
Yeah,
so they are basing this off the fact that the books are still being written. They haven't come to the final book yet. George R. R. Martin's still writing, but he did actually have this effectively a book for this series written out, so it was all kind of there and penned out as a structure.
Talking of foretelling, there was a really cool moment in this episode when Queen Aemma was in the bath and she talks about birthing a dragon, which I thought was a great nod to Daenerys, who
becomes the mother of dragons.
End of season 1. You know. So I thought that was, you know, either directly or indirectly kind of pointing that bit out, but I thought that was really cool.
But it's all very familiar, and I like it. The architecture's similar. You've got maesters, you've got lords and knights and stuff. Not as much violence and blood as I thought there might be, but it's still there, and it's still prevalent, so that's fine. Yeah. I did find myself, though, that I was like, I have this vision of what Targaryens are, and 40 minutes in, I was like, maybe that vision was wrong, because originally they weren't as bad as they are portrayed 174 years later. Clearly they were, at one point, high regarded and honourable, but some point, and I guess we're going to learn this to your point, as we go through the seasons, that Targaryen, you know, legacy changes because they become bad through terrible ruling or whatever. And as you said, introduction to golden cloaks, to take a very peaceful, town into kind of a bit more.
Yeah,
well, not
possibly.
I mean,
the way they argued it was that there's a lot of criminal elements and stuff, and it's not been
criminal,
dealt with
but
properly.
Now with the introduction of the golden cloaks, making them.
It's the perspective of it because, as he said to Hightower, you don't live outside of the walls. You don't.
You can't call him Hightower. You know that.
Why?
Because it's a direct reference to Police Academy, and the guy's black as well. Well, the other guy's black.
Okay,
sorry.
So he says to Otto Hightower. Fuck you! I'm not making. Look, my reference isn't towards Police Academy.
There's only one Hightower, and that's in Police Academy.
Okay, well, he's also in this. So, but he does. He says to Otto, "You don't. You don't live out there. You don't know what it's
true.
And I think it's sort of like the perspective is that certain people might go, "Oh, you are a tyrant," but other people will just be like, "He's celebrated by all of the people in, say, like the whorehouse." They're looking at him going, actually, you see us. Yep. You recognise us where, someone like Otto Hightower doesn't, and in fact goes, you're the peasants, you're the scum. He doesn't see it. They see it differently. So, they're looking at Daemon going, you're kind of like our champion, you're our prince. Because he's willing to go in there and be a part of that.
I do, for me, what we've been set up with Daemon here, which I find really interesting, is he's been shown to us to be a bit of a tyrant. He clearly doesn't care. Like some of the stuff he does, for example, like with Otto, I'm just going to maim your son and then come onto your daughter and give you a wink when I do it. He goes out into town cutting limbs off people. So we're shown very antagonistic elements from him, which I kind of find interesting because then when they talk at the end about him and how bad he is and how you can't let him be king, like he'd be a nightmare. But somebody does point out, except you gave him the City Watch, and these guys are fiercely loyal to him, and he's installed that somehow. So what is it about him that's created that sense of loyalty from them? So he can't all just be like, this guy's a complete and utter arsehole, because otherwise they wouldn't follow him so doggedly.
Yeah, I think Game of Thrones is known for its cloak and dagger, kind of... twisting, and you've got, I think, the way they portray a character like Daemon. So you see him in his first real instance either sitting on the throne, which is apparently a crime, or he's chopping people's arms off.
I just as a side note, I loved that scene where he's in the darkness but on the phone, and then he. Yeah, when he comes forward.
But that again, it's the visual, it's the dark. You've only got a bit of light and the dust and everything, and it's just sort of like
some of the visual storytelling was fantastic.
Oh yeah, 100%. But yeah, it's like and then you've got Otto Hightower. He's the right hand of the king. He's honourable. He's a widower. He's just lost his wife. Yep. He's raising all the things they try to portray him as. Yeah, it's like when he's talking about Daemon, he lacks patience. He lacks patience and ambition, which so something along the lines of that you haven't found that yet. Yet that is exactly what he has, because he's there trying to pawn off his own daughter on the king and wear a dress. He's immediately within as soon as he's seen that ability, he's gone and he's deflected it towards Daemon. He'll go, hey, everyone, look at what Daemon's doing. Oh, by the way, I'm just secretly whoring out my daughter. Yeah, it
wouldn't be Game of Thrones if he didn't do that. I mean...
Yeah, but it's so brilliantly done because.
Okay. Yeah. Any final thoughts from either of you, or anything that we've not covered from the episode there?
Well, I'd like to know the rest of Pete's Easter eggs.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. So they talk about when they're in the garden. They're talking about Queen Nymeria.
Yep.
Nymeria being the name of Arya Stark's direwolf.
Yeah.
So you got that one, and then just also the other stuff as well that I thought was really cool was the different the way they have different types of dragon. They haven't just gone, here's a cookie cutter. They you saw Caralex or whatever his name is.
Oh,
Daemon's dragon at the end, and he's like
Cyrax or Cyrillax or something.
Yeah, that's
like that,
it.
Yeah,
and he's like really long, and he's just like
big.
Yeah, he looks absolutely huge. But then you see Rhaenyra's dragon, and it's kind of like smaller but more stocky. Got that web
younger.
Pattern.
Yeah,
and also like they talk about Baelorun when they're doing the scene with the candles and talking about the succession. and Baelorun is actually shown in Game of Thrones as well. So they've actually reused that, which I think is really cool. And then just a bit around Dracarys, which they So, but the other thing as well is that it's interesting that Daenerys knew that, but she wasn't trained.
I think she must have been trained.
I'd need to fact check that.
Yeah, because I think that even though they'd been squirreled away, I think her and her brother had a certain amount of, through their childhood, training in Old Valyrian.
Yeah.
And that whole thing. So
and that's the tongue they're speaking.
Yeah. So I would say that she probably would have, because the reason why they didn't show us much of that in the show is because they wanted to do the big reveal in the first season where he's speaking Old Valyrian, and then suddenly she starts talking back to him. He's like, "Oh my god, you actually understand what I'm saying."
You're talking about.
Yeah.
I think the only other point that I wanted to throw out is that we talk about how visually shocking the directing in this episode was.
Yeah.
Especially around the cesarean part. That was definitely the shock factor. I think the bit that I thought was really subtle but really well done is the fact that he goes up to the king and says, "This is your son," and then in the next scene you see the small little body next to the queen, and you didn't even clock it, really.
No, I did. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to. I wanted to wait for the characters to.
But it's just the fact that if you're looking at it and then you're like, what the fuck? Because in one hand you're like, what the hell? She's bleeding. It's really like gory and visceral, and then you see that and you're just subtly slapped by it, and you just like, I've got fucking no. What the hell happened? And he's crying. How did that happen? How?
Something I think I clocked this time round, which I may not have clocked properly the first time round on that scene, which is interesting, is that they play it out and they show it as like he's decided that he's going to save the son over the wife, and then obviously the poor woman's effectively strapped down whilst they kill her. But the little conversation just before, which the maester or whoever's basically said to him, they either both die or you can save the son. So he actually hinted to him, the king, your wife's dead one way or the other.
Yeah.
So he's having to make the difficult choice to save the son.
And the maesters are right. I mean, they both died.
Well, I think she died because they decided to cut the kid out.
But you know exactly what I'm saying.
I just think the scene itself makes you think, oh my god, you're killing your wife. But actually, I don't think he had much of a choice in it, one way or the other, based on the knowledge he had and what was going on.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I obviously clocked it when the bigger body than the smaller body, and I was like, yeah, of course, it's Game of Thrones. They would do that, wouldn't they? They would set you up with a situation where the king went from, complete bliss, I guess, to torture. So now he's going to. I mean, he seems to be holding it together. He's not sort of derailed or gone mad yet. But I mean,
no. In fact, obviously,
he's made a good decision actually.
Which brings us to the final part before I go on to move on to the next stage, which is the decision at the end. I like how everything sort of played out in such a way where the end of the episode was always going to end with him announcing Rhaenyra as his heir, based on how the episode began, where it talked about her aunt, the queen that never was.
Yeah.
Because at this point, at this time, the idea of a queen ruling the kingdom, like they said in the chamber, it's never been done. That's tradition is. So I like the idea, like the breaker of chains, the breaking of tradition, of him actually breaking away from tradition, saying, actually, I am going to. She is the right person to take over and lead from this point onwards. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
What was this episode called, by the way? Was it called The Heir that... Heir for a Day? Was it called that, or...?
No, I think it's... I can't remember exactly. I'd need to go and IMDb.
I just thought that would have been a great... That would have been a great title if it was called Heir for a Day.
I think it is something to do with Heirs.
Right.
But obviously I don't have my phone, so I can't...
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So like with Battlestar Galactica, I'm bringing over from that the Death Note. I want a couple of predictions from you, Rich. Who's going to make it through to the end of Season 1?
Season 1?
Yeah, and I'm going to keep it to Season 1 for you. We'll say...
Yeah, sure.
By the end of Season 1, is there anyone from our small cast of characters that you've seen so far where you think they're not long for this world?
I'm going to say Hightower.
Otto, yep.
Otto Hightower. And... I mean, I've only seen a few characters, not a lot.
Yeah, it's a bit different.
But I'm thinking. I think that the guy with the red shield that beat Daemon Targaryen,
Sir Cole. That guy.
Yeah, I think he's going to live.
Okay.
If he's the love interest of.
So I think he's all right for the time being.
Yeah, but then if Daemon Targaryen gets another scrap with him, probably going to kill him off. Because, I mean, it would piss the Queen off.
Yeah.
And he ultimately wants... Okay, he's going down the list as well, yeah, him.
Cole's going on the list. You just realised it's...
His impending doom, yeah. The fact that Matt Smith might try and get to him and... Yeah, so those two, yeah.
Excellent.
On the list.
Right, okay. So, I think that's everything. Unless there was anything else on your list, Pete.
No. I'm very much enjoying my hour of nerding out.
Cool. I don't actually have a sign-off for this one, so I suppose we're going to have to come up with a sign-off for...
Oh, good lord.
For ending.
Do they now have to listen to a sign-off?
Dracarys,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Vala Morghulis? No, that's Game of Thrones.
It is Game of Thrones. It works for this because it's all Game of Thrones.
I'm just going to say
I don't know what's...
Yeah, what's Valerian for goodbye?
We'll have to look it up before next episode.
Yeah, I haven't got a sign off. We'll come up with one.
Okay, on that note, thanks a lot for watching.
See ya.